The views, information, and opinions expressed during the following program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent the views of Access Communications, its representatives, or its employees.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting of June 6th. Under presentations, we have none this evening, but we would like to show you a presentation from the Hillcrest grade 2s and 3s, Mr. Hayes' class. They put that together. That's their understanding of the city of Estevan, and they did a very good job. So we're very appreciative of that. We would like to thank Mr. Hayes and his class for a job well done, and we will hang it at City Hall in a place of good exposure so everyone can see it. So we'd like to thank them again for that. Could we have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented? Okay, thank you. The first two keeners are Councillor Vroba and Councillor Clark. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, could we have a motion, please, to accept the minutes of the council meeting held on May 24th, 22? Councillor Frank, seconded by Councillor Walliser. Any questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from Southeast College, Swing for Scholarships Golf Course, June 23rd. Coming up at the TS&M Woodlawn Golf Club at Estevan. Proceeds from this event support post-secondary education and student scholarships at Southeast College. And it's $150 per golfer. It's an 18-hole shotgun start at 1 p.m. Dinner to follow, sponsorship opportunities available. Register online and get in touch, 306-861-0091. Would any member of council like to speak to this? Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. Do you have any, what we've sponsored before, or have we sponsored in other years?
Usually we have the leeway, the city manager, myself, and city clerk, of about $5,000 that over the course of the year we're allowed to give out in small increments. So if council wishes, you know, for maybe that some of that 5,000 to go this way, that would be fine.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I was thinking, is that we just leave this in the hands of the city manager. He, again, like you said, makes those decisions, and so I think it's whatever he decides. If there's something on there that fits his budget, that, because to date, whether or not he's given away some or all of it, it would be up to him.
We're pretty thrifty.
That's what I figured.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that. We'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Take a seconder.
Do we have a seconder for that? Okay. Okay, Councillor Ford. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next, under original communications, delegations, and petitions, we have from Long Creek Railroad a request for a letter of support. I'm writing to request a letter of support from the City of Estevan for our Rafferty Road Ladder Tracks project for our National Trade Corridor Fund application. This project would increase the capacity of Long Creek Railroad by creating a more efficient interchange connection and allowing the railway to carry any commodity in any rail car. As you know, Long Creek Railroad Company, LCR, is an investor-owned and operated short-line railway in southeast Saskatchewan. Long Creek Railroad began in 2011 with a group of local producers purchasing the railroad from the Canadian Pacific Railway. It's a 41-mile line from Estevan to Tribune. With over a decade of operating experience, Long Creek Railroad has steadily developed by working with existing clients to meet their needs, loading producer cars promptly and efficiently, and offering a high level of practical knowledge. Long Creek Railroad is asking for support as we have applied for funding through the National Trade Corridor Fund. Long Creek Railroad has applied for funding to build 2 new 5,000-foot ladder tracks, so that'll be close to a mile long. I believe a mile is 5,280 feet. So these tracks will be located 7 miles from the interchange point between LCR and CP Railway, and an upgrade to our bridge at mile point 4.4. The construction of ladder tracks will serve as a more efficient interchange connection, allowing cars to come directly onto the LCR without having first to go into the Estevan yard. In addition, it will serve as surge capacity for the CP Weyburn sub and an outlet to efficiently store cars during service disruptions, or unexpected traffic backlogs, including extreme weather events. The upgrade to the bridge will allow LCR to accept any type of train, including loaded, dangerous goods. Both upgrades would allow LCR to attract new, small, and medium-sized businesses on the line, including a new energy customer currently located near the LCR that would ship dangerous goods by rail if the opportunity existed, eliminating numerous dangerous goods trucks from the local roads. Your letter of support is critical to Long Creek Railroad's application to the National Trade Corridors Fund. With the successful construction of the siding and bridge upgrade, LCR will achieve greater levels of efficiency, reducing bottlenecks and improving the transportation supply chain in southeast Saskatchewan. To meet our comprehensive proposal deadline, we would request that letters of support be returned by June 17th, 2022. For your convenience, we have attached a letter of support template that details what NTCF would like to see in the support letters. So what's the wish of council? I think it's a great idea. Councillor Ford, then Councillor Frank.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'd make the motion to send out a letter supporting this. I know the Long Creek Railroad really supports a lot of our local farmers and helps get their grain out, and I think that's really important to support our farmers and any other project they might have coming down the pipe. Literally down the pipe.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Ford. Councillor Frank?
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, I too would second it. I just wondered, the bridge they're referring to, is that the overpass that's on our highway, or is that a bridge somewhere else along their line?
I believe it is. We can check that out, but I believe it is the bridge. The same bridge that was hit one time with a backhoe, remember? I believe it is that one. No?
No.
No, I believe it's 4 miles out on the.
Oh,
on
4
the,
miles
Yeah,
out?
it says it's 4 miles out, and I wasn't sure if that would make it that one or
It's a
one.
wooden one through the valley or
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
no
it's the
worries.
one 4.4 out?
I think it's the one that crosses the grid out by Cundall's, or Clearwaters, I think it's over there.
Okay, because I know they do have that bridge. They do store cars on that bridge, this Long Creek Railway, because you see the engines going back and forth. But, okay, irregardless.
No, and regardless, I would support this either way. I guess just if it does require that, would maybe want a letter. Just I would still support this regardless, but just some information as to what construction might look like. But that's further down the road once they receive the grants, anyways. So, and if it's not in our area, then we don't have to worry about it. But of course, we would support this either way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got the motion. Any other comments? Seeing none. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under written reports of committees, we have from the Southeast Regional Library appointment of Shailene Thompson. Councillor Walliser, you're on that board, right? Would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Your Worship. This board, just like many other boards in the community, are in desperate need of volunteers willing to give their time monthly to ensure that these programs continue. The library has lost a couple of lifetime members that have moved away from the city of Estevan and no longer are able to serve as board members. Shailene has stepped up and offered to be that volunteer for the board, and I ask that we accept that.
Okay, thank you for that, and we appreciate Shailene for stepping up Any other questions or comments on that? Should we have a motion, City Clerk? Have we got a seconder on that then? Okay, Councillor Cernick, any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Walliser. Okay, next, under written reports of committees, again, we have from the Southeast Regional Library the minutes of May 17th. Councillor Walliser, anything you'd like to speak to the minutes or anything you'd like to bring up?
Thank you, Your Worship. Summer is just around the corner, and with that comes the TD Summer Reading Program. This has been in our community for my entire life. Always looked forward to the summer reading program. So as parents are planning out their summers, make sure to take a look at that at the library as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And any other questions? Go ahead, Councillor Ford.
Thanks, Your Worship. Councillor Walliser, I know this has been advertised quite often, but for maybe people who aren't following the library on Facebook, can you tell us about the Regional Park Pass program?
Thank you, Councillor Ford. So on June 1st, just this past week, a limited number of free park passes were released to the libraries for them to distribute among patrons of the library. This is part of a partnership between the parks and the libraries. Many libraries right across the province are now providing a smaller free library right in the campground for people to continue to exchange books all summer.
Good, that's a great idea. So do we have a motion to accept? Would you make that motion? Councillor Walliser, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Clark. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under written reports of committees, we have from Souris Valley Museum Board the minutes of May 18th. And Councillor Clark, you're on that board. Anything you'd like to add to the minutes?
Sorry, that's.
Oh, it's Councillor Walliser again. Sorry, Councillor Walliser.
Thank you, Your Worship. With COVID restrictions lifting, our third-party groups are able to finally begin fundraising again after 2 years of very limited options to raise funds for their programs. The museum has reignited their annual citywide garage sale. So the dates are coming out on Facebook. They are starting to look for donations, and you can reach out to the museum if you have something you'd like to donate.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Walliser. And were you going to make a motion to accept those minutes, Emma?
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Have we got a seconder? Perhaps Councillor Clark? Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thanks. Okay, under executive reports, we have from the city manager, the Padwick Park status. So we will turn to the city manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. As many of you would have seen at the Padwick Park this year, that it's not as vibrant and as green as it generally was. In the report, it explains that over the last couple of years, Rod March and the Parks Department has been trying to tackle the invasive foxtail weed issue over there. As everyone knows, this can be very problematic. It gets in the grass as well as the soil. So last year, the Parks Department was looking at scraping the grass off and kind of starting from new with seeding and sod, but the local contractor did say that there's a really aggressive chemical that could be used, and they have seen grass rebound in certain areas. So before starting over and redoing that park, it was decided to apply this chemical. I think it's still early in the spring, and hopefully with some rain and some heat, we can see if that area's come back. There is some recommendations and options there about continuing to monitor, initiate a zero maintenance plan immediately for certain areas. This is a large park with some large spaces that aren't generally used for much, that could have some xeriscape areas with boulders, crushed rock, and some trees in those areas. So those are kind of the recommendations. The recommendation is to just monitor right now and continue to get a report from parks over the next 3 weeks and potentially build out a plan at that point. So that's
Okay, thank you, City Manager. Monitor into July and then take another look at it. Okay, thank you. And is council okay? Councillor Walliser?
Thank you, Your Worship. One problem that we often hear coming out of Padwick Park is the drainage in that park, that quite frequently after a rainfall there's quite extensive ponds that form, and then concerns from homeowners about the potential for mosquitoes. So if we could use this time as we're monitoring over the next 3 weeks to look at creating some of that zero-scaping, no maintenance in those low-lying areas, so that while we're fixing the problem of the grass, we're also tackling some of these more long-standing issues.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rowley. Or if you like, we could probably even fill in those low spots, because we would have topsoil, but perhaps we can refer to the Parks Department, whatever they want to do, with those options in mind. Okay, Councillor Ford?
Thanks, Your Worship. And just to confirm, and I've had a number of questions about this, and I've told them, no, this was last year. The chemical was applied last year, correct? I've had a number of people say, well, we're not going to take our kids to the splash park this season because of that, but that chemical was applied last year. We've had a whole winter for it to be dissipated and do its job, so the park is good now to actually go and play and have recreational activities.
Thank you. City Manager?
Your Worship, Council Ford, also would just state that the chemical was discussed with the Ministry of Environment and was suitable for use in that area to try to tackle the foxtail issue.
Yeah, and Councillor Ford, this is right across the street from you, right? So you have been monitoring faithfully on behalf of council, and we appreciate that. So do we have a motion to accept that report, please? Thank you, Councillor Ford. Seconded by Councillor Frank. Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have the fire chief request a vehicle for fire suppression at Country Thunder event, July 13th to 17th. I'll just try to be brief on this. For over 10 years now, the Estevan Fire Rescue members, in conjunction with Team Response, have provided fire suppression and medical aid assistance for Country Thunder, formerly known as the Craven Country Jamboree. Since our involvement, manpower and equipment resource demands have grown to the point of involving manpower from other fire departments throughout the province in the last 3 years. Equipment resource demands have grown as well, and to provide adequate protection for the staff, entertainers, and campers alike. Balgonie/White City provides a fire truck for fire suppression, and EFR has provided a command vehicle. These two vehicles are vital to the safety of all the concert goers and campers, as they are deckled, lighted, equipped with sirens to warn everyone of a pending or active emergency occurring. The command vehicle is only used and operated by Fire Chief Dale Fieser and Fire Chief Trent Lee from Weyburn Fire Department, as they both provide incident command throughout the event. It was never more than evident that in 2018, when EFR's command unit played a major role in saving a young man's life. He suffered a cardiac event. The command unit was blocks away, and they saved his life. So this would not have been able to be accomplished in a safe and timely manner, as there would not have been an effective emergency vehicle to warn the public and to get them to move out of the way to deliver the AED and then to secure the landing zone for STARS. So discussion, the Estevan Fire Rescue would like to ask approval for the use of C303D, that's a unit during the Country Thunder event from July 13th to 17th. This will ensure a level of safety for what is arguably Saskatchewan's 5th largest city for the week. Financial impact is minimal, as it will only cost fuel for driving there. Now, having said that, that could be quite a bit the way fuel is going up, but anyway, once on site, the fuel is provided, so that's a bonus. C303D is a spare command vehicle that is being requested for use and will also not leave the city in a vulnerable position, as we have a backup, actually two vehicles, C301D and C302D, will remain in service in the absence of the other vehicle. All firefighters that attend this event do so on a voluntary basis to gain experience and out of a sense of duty to help others. That said, there will be no financial burden of wages associated with this event. Conclusion, EFR would like to thank you for considering this request, and with the city manager's and council's blessing, EFR would like to continue to use the C303D command unit to provide a critical piece of the emergency response infrastructure for this event. So what's the wish of council? Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship. This came up a few years ago too, and I think some people were under the impression that it was the city of Estevan was paying people to be there and they were participating. And it was cleared up for us, but I think this is really good that it came back to council again this time because we have a lot of people from our community and surrounding area that actually attend Craven. And so I think that it's good that we have Dale there, Chief Feeser, because a lot of the kids in this area know him. And so they see him. And I've actually had comments that like, hey, it was really good. You know, my son or daughter felt safe when they seen Chief Feeser there and he talked to them and he gave them some advice, mostly drink water. And, you know, basically I think it's a good thing to have him there. I think it's nice that he volunteers his time to give that security and safety. So I would be in favor of this and I would make the motion that we do allow the command vehicle to go and that I thank him for donating his time and all the other firefighters.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Vroba. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Cernick? Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have the building permit report for May of 22. Could we have a motion, please, to accept that report? Thank you. Councillor Cernick, seconded by Councillor Walliser. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under executive reports, we have from the Land Development, zoning from urban holding to heavy industrial. Now, economic development has advanced 2 projects to the point where consideration is being recommended to allow for the following 2 land uses on city-owned portions southwest of 25 2nd 8-2. The land is currently zoned to urban holdings, which allows for ag use until a more urbanized use is expected. The map is attached. A portion of the land is separated from the main part of the quarter section by a drainage swale. The land to the west of the swale is identified for future commercial development, while a remainder of the quarter section is identified for future industrial. The undeveloped portion of the quarter section is bounded by Kensington Street on the west side and a gravel roadway that extends eastward to the highway bypass. Economic Development has requested council consideration to rezone the undeveloped land to the east of the swale from urban holdings to industrial M2 heavy industrial district. Both a large-scale greenhouse development and a biomass plant would be approved uses in this zoning district. Existing ag uses may continue indefinitely under the M2 zoning district as a non-conforming use. Council may require a preliminary site plan or other information prior to the second or third reading if necessary. Approval of this bylaw, and again, this will be just first reading this evening, does not guarantee development permit approval as the proposed use is undefined in terms of layout and servicing requirements. The city will have the opportunity to evaluate a detailed proposal as part of the subdivision and or development permit process should this bylaw be adopted. The drainage channel boundary is in the zoning map and will be defined when the first survey plan is prepared on the parcel. Final comments. The proposed rezoning is in accordance with the city's official community plan. It is recommended the first reading be considered by council. What's the wish of council on this? Councillor Walliser?
Thank you, Your Worship. When looking at that drainage channel boundary in the zoning map, is it the responsibility of the city to complete the first survey plan, or would that wait until someone has indicated interest in the parcel itself?
City Manager?
Thank you, Worship. Councilor Walliser. I think this is just a general zoning. I think once the actual surveying and development permits were taken out, they would be done at that time, and we would likely do it in conjunction with any developers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Any further questions? Okay, are you ready for the motion, Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thank you. Your Worship, I'll move approval.
Okay, thank you. First reading, have we got a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ford. All in favor?
That's actually just for the report, Your Worship.
Okay, well, the report, it'll come later, I guess. So that'll be for the report, and then the first will come later. Thank you, City Clerk. Okay, and here we are. Introduction of bylaws. Bylaw 2022-2059 to amend 10-1834 zoning from urban holdings to heavy industrial. First reading. Councillor Waliser, are you willing to make that motion? And Councillor Clark, thank you, both. Any further questions? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next, under public hearings and reports, we have none this evening. Giving notice. We have a couple of proclamations. Okay, this is pretty wordy. I'll try to get through it. Proclamation. In Saskatchewan, we are fortunate to have a variety of recreation and park systems providing countless recreational opportunities for residents, and whereas recreation enhances quality of life, active living, lifelong learning, helps people live happier and longer, develops skills and positive self-image in children and youth, develops creativity and builds healthy bodies and positive lifestyles, and whereas recreation participation builds family unity, social capital, strengthens volunteer and community development, creates community pride and vitality, and promotes sensitivity and understanding to cultural diversity, and whereas recreation, therapeutic recreation, and leisure education are essential to enhancing the quality of life of individuals who experience living with a disability or have become ill or are disadvantaged. And whereas the benefits provided by recreation and parks programs and services reduce healthcare and social service costs, serve to boost the economy, economic renewal, and sustainability, enhance property values, attract new business, increase tourism, and whereas our parks, open space, and trails ensure ecological sustainability, provide space to enjoy nature, help maintain clean air and water, and preserve plant and animal wildlife, and whereas all levels of government, the nonprofit and voluntary sectors, private enterprise throughout the provinces, participate in the planning, development, and operation of recreation and parks programs, services, and facilities. Now therefore, that the Saskatchewan Parks and Recreation Association, SPRA, does hereby proclaim that June, which witnesses the greening of Saskatchewan and serves as a significant gateway to summer family activities, has designed June is Recreation and Parks Month, which will annually recognize and celebrate the benefits derived year-round from quality public and private recreation and parks resources at the local, regional, and provincial levels. Be it therefore resolved, I, Roy Ludwig, Mayor of the City of Estevan, in recognition of the benefits and values that recreation, parks, and leisure services provide, do hereby designate the month of June 2022 to be Recreational and Parks Month in the City of Estevan. Wow, that may not be heaven, but it's got to be pretty close. Anyway, could we have a motion to adopt that, please? Thank you, Councillor Cerdic, seconded by Councillor Broba. Ready for the question? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, City Clerk. Okay. We also have the proclamation this evening, the longest day of smiles. Whereas Operation Smile Canada is a global medical charity providing free, life-changing surgeries and medical care to children born with cleft conditions around the world. And whereas every 3 minutes a child is born with a cleft condition, and lack of access to safe, effective surgery means that easily treatable conditions like cleft lip and cleft palate can become fatal. Operation Smile Canada believes every child born with a cleft condition deserves exceptional surgical care. And whereas the longest day of smiles will unite Canadians from coast to coast to coast as they raise awareness and funds to support this important cause. To learn more, visit www.longestdayofsmiles.ca. And whereas on June 19th, 2022, the community is encouraged to celebrate the longest day of smiles by sharing Longest Day of Smiles on social media. Now therefore, I, Roy Ludwig, Mayor of the City of Estevan, do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2022 as the longest day of smiles in the City of Estevan and commend it thoughtful observant to all citizens in our city. And could I have a motion, please, to that effect? Thank you. Councillor Walliser, seconded by Councillor Clark. Any further questions, comments? If not, all in favor? Carried. Thank you for that. Next, motions from committee this evening. We have none. But we have 4 bylaws that we would like to give second and third reading on. And they have been out in our community now for a couple of weeks. City Clerk, I don't think we've had any feedback on any of them, have we?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you for that. So we will start with bylaw 2022-2055. Established rate of taxation will give second and third reading. A bylaw of the City of Estevan in the province of Saskatchewan to fix the rate of taxation to be known as Property Tax Bylaw, whereas Section 253 of the Cities Act authorizes Council to annually pass a property tax bylaw to impose a levy on all taxable assessment in the City of Estevan. A uniform mill rate considered sufficient to raise the amount of taxes required to meet the estimated expenditures and transfers in regard to estimated revenues from other sources set out in the budget of the City of Estevan, and B, at any other rates required by the Cities Act or any other act. So, do we have a second reading at this juncture for bylaw 2022-2055? Councillor Walliser, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Vroba. And since this is second reading, I will ask if there's any questions, comments, observations that you'd like to make. Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Cernak.
Yeah, just a quick one. So our city mill rate is going up how much in this?
City Manager.
Double check.
Like just mills, like one mil, 1.1 mil?
Yeah, to Councillor Cernak, let me double check with Trina on that. Our tax revenue was remaining the same from the properties. I know the educational mill rate was going up 1.7% on residential, 1.8 on commercial.
Okay.
So that's what the change is, because there is increase on the education portion, and that's separate. I believe there's another bylaw regarding the health levy that would reduce that. So.
Okay, perfect. That's basically what I want to clarify.
Yeah, basically, Councillor Cernak, it's going up about 2%. That will be on the education side, which is decided by the province. And the province unilaterally does that, as we're all aware of, and then we have to pass it on. Councillor Frank.
Thanks, Worship. Just on that note, and clearly I don't look at my own tax bill enough. I just give it to the bookkeeper to pay the bill. But on our tax bill, does it separate what amount of money is going to the schools and what's going to us? Is it fairly clear what it is there? Just to make sure.
Councillor Frank, yes, I believe that is the initiative that was put forward a couple years ago. I know some cities are trying to separate it even more to show that we are, collecting on the school's behalf. A lot of people do not realize that when they pay their taxes, that, approximately 35 to 40% is actually going to the school board. So I will review our billing and just make sure that that's the case.
So then when we see that increase, it should be clearly that my property taxes will be the same, my school taxes will have gone up, but of course that's not our decision.
Yeah, we like to identify that because, as you are aware of, Councillor Frank, the city hasn't taken the taxes up for a while, but this year the education portion is going up, and although we collect the education portion on behalf of the province, we don't get compensated for that.
No, and nor do we make that decision, which is very important for people to understand. So, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Worship. I was just going to say for Councillor Sarnik, I did look it up. Last year, the ag mill rates was 1.36. This year's 1.42. The residential is 4.54 this year, 4.46 last year. Commercial 6.86. Last year was 6.75. Resources with the oil 9.88, and last year was 9.79. So it's like an average of 0.09. So it's very minute with the mill rate change.
Okay, and that will be reflected, of course, in the tax bill. So, okay, did we vote on that, City Clerk? Okay, we had a motion though, right?
Yep.
Okay, ready for the vote? Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now we'll go to third reading for bylaw 2022-2055. A bylaw in the city of Estevan and the province of Saskatchewan to fix the rate of taxation to be known as the property tax bylaw. And I guess I should maybe finish reading the complete thing. Whereas Section 255 of the Cities Act authorizes council to set the mill rate factors, which factors, when multiplied by the uniform rate determined by council, establish a tax rate for each class or subclass of property established by council, which tax rates may be different for each class or subclass of property. And whereas Section 258 of the Cities Act provides that the annual property tax bylaw may provide for minimum amounts payable as property tax, so a minimum tax, either a minimum amount of tax or a method of calculating the minimum amount of tax, or C, different amounts of minimum tax or different methods of calculating minimum tax for different classes or subclasses of property. And whereas the Education Property Tax Act 2017 requires the city to levy and collect against the properties in the school divisions within the city at the tax rates determined under that act by their lieutenant governor and council for the different property classes. And whereas the city has received notice pursuant to the Education Property Tax Act 2017 that the Holy Family Roman Catholic Separate School Division number 140 intends to determine its own tax rates pursuant to the act. Now therefore the Council of the City of Estevan in the province of Saskatchewan enacts as follows. In this bylaw, taxable properties mean the properties that are not fully exempt from the taxation pursuant to the Cities Act. School division mill rates pursuant to the Education Property Act 2017 on behalf of the school divisions within the City of Estevan for the year 2022, the city levies the following tax rates on all taxable properties within each school division using the property classes established by the Lieutenant Governor on Council pursuant to the Act. And I think that's what you just read out, Councillor Vroba? Ag, 1.42, residential, 4.54, commercial/industrial, 6.86 mils, and resource, oil and gas, mines and pipelines, 9.88. Pursuant to Section 253 of the Cities Act, the city levies at a rate of 14.8 mils per dollar on all taxable properties within the City of Estevan, in addition to the minimum tax payable under Section 6, raise the amount of money required on the year 2022 to meet the city's estimated expenditures and transfers having regard to the estimated revenues from other sources. So then we've got the property class and subclasses. We've got large commercial improvements or large open shell, standalone. Design of this improvement is focused on the function of the business rather than aesthetic appeal. These improvements have a minimum assessment of $5 million and a minimum square footage of 50,000 square feet. The multi-unit apartments greater than 12, land and improvement designed and used for or intended to be used for in conjunction with residential purposes to accommodate 12 or more Self-contained dwellings, condominium properties are a subclass of the multi-unit residential property class, which subclass includes any condominium unit with the meaning of the Condominium Property Act 93 that is used for residential purposes. Motels, land and improvement designed and used for or intended to be used for in conjunction with a commercial purpose that provides lodging on a short-term basis. Motel full-service accommodation complex containing full-service restaurant, separate bar establishment, and separate off-sale establishment. Mall, large enclosed, large retail complex containing stores and businesses facing a system of enclosed walkways for pedestrians. The entrance to the complex is controlled by a limited number of entrances, and most stores are only accessible via interior corridors. So the mill rate factors, again pursuant to Section 255 of the Cities Act, non-arable range 1.1, other ag 1, residential 0.725, multi-unit residential condominium 0.775, multi-unit residential 4 to 11 1.4, multi-unit residential larger than 12 1.542, commercial 1.55, commercial motel 2.3, commercial motel full service 1.9, commercial large commercial 2.85, commercial mall 1.5, railway and pipeline 2.4. Pursuant to Section 258, our minimum tax of $700 on taxable property assessed for both land and improvements is established. This bylaw shall be effective from January 1st of 2022 to December 31st of 2022. So I will now ask for third reading and adoption for use of bylaw 2022-2055, a bylaw in the City of Estevan and the Province of Saskatchewan to fix the rate of taxation to be known as the property tax bylaw. Thank you. Councillor Cernak, seconded by Councillor Frank. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under consideration of bylaws, we have bylaw 2022-2056, provide special tax for library levy. This evening, we will be asking for second and third reading of bylaw 2022-2056, a bylaw in the City of Estevan and the Province of Saskatchewan to provide for special tax levy for library levy and operations in the City of Estevan. Whereas Council of the City of Estevan deems it necessary and desirable to charge a special tax for the purpose of providing funding to cover the committed amount required by the Southeast Regional Library and the amount of $398,920, which is $34.74 per capita. Now therefore, Council of the City of Estevan hereby enact a special tax shall be charged against each class of property within the city to generate approximately $401,000 for the Southeast Regional Library and local library operations. Pursuant to Section 10 of the Cities Act, the special tax shall be charged at a rate of 0.374 mils based on the current year's assessment. All previous bylaws are repealed. So may we have a motion, please, to accept bylaw 2022-2056, second reading at this meeting. Councillor Clark, thank you. Councillor Cernak, seconded. Any further questions or comments? Thank you. Ready for the question? All in favor? Thank you. Now we will request third reading and adoption for use for bylaw 2022-2056, a bylaw in the City of Estevan, in the Province of Saskatchewan to provide for a special tax for library levy and operations in the City of Estevan. Third reading. Thank you. Councillor Walliser, seconded by Councillor Ford. Thank you. Ready for the questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, under consideration of bylaws, we have bylaw 2022-2057, provides special tax for the health levy, and we will be requesting second and third reading this evening for this bylaw as well. So bylaw 2022-2057, a bylaw in the city of Estevan in the province of Saskatchewan to provide for a special tax for regional health care in the city of Estevan. Whereas under the authority of Section 277 of the Cities Act, the city may pass a special tax bylaw. And whereas the Council of the City of Estevan deem it necessary and desirable to charge a special tax for the purpose of providing financial assistance to regional health care in the amount of $100,000 that will benefit the entire city. Now therefore, Council of the City of Estevan hereby enact as follows. A special tax shall be charged against each class of property within the city to generate approximately $101,000 for regional health care. Pursuant to Section 10 of the Cities Act, the special tax shall be charged at the rate of 0.0946 mils based on this current year's assessment. All previous bylaws are repealed. So could we have a motion, please, for second reading of bylaw 2022-2057, a bylaw in the city of Estevan in the province of Saskatchewan I'm running out of steam, to provide for a special tax for regional health care in the city of Estevan. Thank you, Councillor Vrova. Seconded by Councillor Frank. Any questions or comments? Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm guessing this has gone on for a long time. Does the hospital actually contact us and tell us how much they need, or do they ever reply to us with what they use it, or is there any guidelines around any of that?
That's a fair question. What they do, the foundation, and usually Greg will accompany, sometimes not, or we may have Greg Hoffer, the CEO at the hospital, come and speak to council on what their needs are. Usually it's a foundation that requests, and then we give them accordingly. They did make a larger request than what we gave this time. This time, this $100,000 is designated for doctor recruitment. We had been paying more for that special levy on the regional nursing home, which is now paid. I believe that was $231,000 and change, City Manager. We've now paid that off. So after fundraising for some 15 years, we are coming closer to fruition on that. The province has agreed on that we will now be putting out a RFP for the new nursing home. So we are starting to get traction. And thank you to our local MLA. We're starting to move forward on that, on building that new regional nursing home. And this is separate from that. This is monies for helping to recruit doctors in our community. Does that answer your question? Did I go on long enough and bore you to death?
I guess, yeah, most of it. I guess my only other question, Your Worship, would be: do we get access to how they spent the money for recruitment, or do they just use it and move on?
Usually, and I guess what we could do is, have a breakdown when they do spend these monies. I'm sure they'd be happy to let us know what doctor, where these monies went, because, it's all monies that the foundation uses, and every dollar is accounted for. So we could request that information, Councillor Clark, and say, where is that 100,000 we designated for doctor recruitment, and we would get that all identified. If you like, we can do that.
Yeah, just perhaps not before next year. We could probably,
before we review the next year's
review the next
funding,
year's probably
we'll
soon
have
enough.
them in and get where all that money went. That's fine.
And I guess one follow-up would be: do all communities do this, or are we the only community doing this?
Some communities do this. I believe not all communities do. Part of the issue we have with the shortage of doctors, our community has come to the table to help out. It's true, this is a provincial responsibility. Because of the shortage of doctors in our area, throughout the province, throughout the country, a lot of the communities come to the table and put extra resources forward to help get doctors, to help the province get doctors, but not all of them do that. Okay? Thank you. Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I was also just going to mention that we do also have Councillor Ford, who is on the hospital board, and you yourself is on the foundation board. So we do have representation on both of those hospital boards that assist us to find out how we need to help. And I believe the RMs that have people on that board also are also contributing. And so, yeah, this was the first year that I think also people will see a bit of a reduction in their taxes because of the fact that we paid down our commitment to the nursing home. So,
yeah, and again, I think the key word there, Councillor Vroba, is may, because it depends, you know, where they are in the scheme of things. But yeah, that's a fair comment. And yeah, what happened, and this is going back, you know, and it speaks to the amount of time that I've been involved here, but I know many years ago when we were in a crisis, we were down to, I believe, 7 doctors. We started a committee, we got other RMs involved. We all started putting money in to turn that crisis around, and it did work. We were able to bring the complement of doctors up to, I think, 12. And now I believe we have more than that, Councillor Walliser, I think, do we not? But again, I know at the last foundation meeting, and I'm sure Councillor Ford, they would like to continue to recruit doctors. And unfortunately, it's war out there with doctor recruitment. And although we do feel guilty, we end up sometimes recruiting doctors from smaller communities that desperately need them. Having said that, we're in a war out there for doctor recruitment. And yeah, it's each person, each community, unfortunately, kind of for themselves out there right now. But I'm sorry, Councillor Walliser, were you going to make a comment?
I just wanted to make sure that the community knew the number is definitely in flux.
Yeah.
Over the past month, we've seen about 5 physicians move away, but we are expecting 3 or more physicians to return in their place. So I wouldn't hold too tightly to the number 14 right now.
Yeah, okay, and that's a fair comment. It continues to ebb and flow, and we've got people, you know, like our members on council that are working very hard, along with the foundation, along with the hospital board. You know, everyone's working at this, trying to do the very best we can do within our community to increase those numbers. But I know, and I was talking to Councillor, well, it used to be Councillor Chipley, at a Rotary meeting, and she said there's a huge doctor shortage in Victoria. And her mother cannot get a doctor. Her doctor is retiring, and none of the doctors that are practicing will accept any more new members. And that's happening all over the place. So it is an issue, and in some cases people have to travel long distances to get access to a doctor. It is a serious situation, and we're not trying to, you know, lessen that. It is serious. Councillor Vrobe?
I was just going to mention that one of our most recent doctors did come from BC, and she has a husband that actually is promoting Estevan on TikTok. And it's great to see that, because he's recognizing that, you know, yeah, BC had great weather, but we have a lot to offer too. So it is really good to see that we do have people, even one of our city employees moved here from Ontario with her and her family, and they're just recognizing that quality of life in Southeast Saskatchewan is great. And also our housing is a lot more affordable for younger people, and for all people actually, to just be able to have more of that income available to them each month. So I think it's a good step in the right direction, that our word is getting out there that we are a great place to live. So
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good comment. And we welcome Gord Moore and his wife to our community. He's working with us. He's doing great work over at the startup. And yeah, thanks to him, and he's really promoting the opportunities that a smaller community has. You're not fighting traffic an hour or 2 hours each way. By the time you get to work, you're exhausted, you're angry. And, you know, there's a lot to be said about a smaller community, for sure. So that's something, like you say, we're definitely promoting. Now, City Clerk, after that dissertation, where are we at?
Please, reading 4-3.
Okay, we need third reading then? Okay, second we've got? Okay, so now at this juncture, I will request third reading for bylaw 2022-2057, a bylaw in the City of Estevan and the province of Saskatchewan to provide for a special tax for regional health care in the City of Estevan. Third reading. Could we have a motion for third reading, please? Thank you, Councillor Cernick. Thank you, Councillor Ford. Ready for the question? All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Under consideration of bylaws, our last and final second and third reading
Sorry, Your Worship. I'm going to declare a conflict of interest for this final one.
Okay, let it be noted that Councillor Frank at this juncture has declared a conflict. We'll be leaving council chambers. We will call you back in after the vote, Councillor Frank. Thank you. Okay, we will be asking for reading of bylaw 2022-2058, a bylaw in the City of Estevan and the province of Saskatchewan to provide for business improvement district, in brackets bid, levy in the City of Estevan. Whereas under the authority of the Cities Act, the city may impose a levy to be used for business purposes within the business improvement district. And whereas a council of the City of Estevan deem it necessary and desirable to charge a business improvement levy for the purpose of providing financial assistance to business improvement district bid in the amount of $27,500 that will benefit the downtown core. Now, therefore, Council of the City of Estevan hereby enacts as follows. A business improvement district bid levy shall be charged against each property as outlined in the boundaries and bylaw 79-891 within the city to generate approximately $27,500 for the business improvement district commitment at a rate of 0.01151956767. Now, only an accountant, city manager, would appreciate that number.
Very specific.
All previous bylaws are hereby repealed. So could we have a motion for second reading? Thank you, Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Walliser. Any questions or comments at this juncture? Seeing none. Ready for the question? All in favor? Thank you. And now finally, under consideration of bylaws, we will ask for third reading and adoption for use of bylaw 2022-2058, a bylaw in the City of Estevan in the province of Saskatchewan to provide for a business improvement district, in brackets bid, levy in the City of Estevan. Do we have a motion for third reading? Councillor Vroba, thank you. Councillor Ford, seconded. Thank you very much. Ready for the question? All in favor? Thank you. Carried, City Clerk. Now, would you mind, thank you, Councillor Walliser, inviting Councillor Frank back into the council chambers, and let it be noted, Councillor Frank has now entered, has occupied, and is now residing within the council chambers. Welcome, Councillor Frank. And we'll move right to inquiries. Councillor Vroba.
Thank you, Worship. I have two this evening. First, I noticed on social media, 2 times actually in the last couple of weeks, where they're speaking of broken glass in the Dennis Moore, Tim Hortons Park, and also in the Rusty Deuce Park. I was just wondering, the couple of things, comments was that their city staff were notified and the glass was picked up. Is there a phone number to be called in the city parks if family is down there and notices that?
City Manager.
Thank you, Worship, to Councilor Burba. I think we would just have the regular 1800 line to report that. I guess if it was immediate danger, the police would be contacted. We can follow up with that and get you a report back
Yeah, I was
there is
just
an
curious
after-hours
as-
call that's separate than.
Yeah, even if there's just somewhere that they can call and leave a message, I mean, if it's not urgent. And I think actually the great thing is a lot of people in our community run home and grab a dustpan and a broom and pick it up themselves, but it'd still be nice if we could follow up so that make sure it gets picked up. The other thing is, at the last meeting, I spoke about writing a letter and trying to see if we can advocate for some kind of relief with the fuel. Much to my dismay, it was said that the letter was read and kind of shot down at a federal level. However, I did find out since then, SARM, which is actually the rural municipalities, is actually advocating for the RMs, and they will be lobbying our provincial and federal government to do better on their pledge to address the rising fuel costs. So I looked on SUMA and I couldn't find anything where SUMA is doing that the same thing for the cities and towns. So I think maybe we went the wrong direction there. It probably maybe should have went to our SUMA group and possibly FCM, and then possibly trying to get them to help us to advocate for other cities, towns, and RMs to join our plea that the federal and provincial governments both try and help find some relief for the municipal people, the cities, the towns, the RMs, for all of us, because if we have to keep on covering those costs, they have to be either reduction in services or they have to, somehow the taxation has to rise, and people just can't afford that right now. So we need the governments to figure this out. It's a huge issue. And we just heard the other day that I believe gas is well over $2 right now in Saskatoon. I believe I just read that. So it's coming to Estevan soon, and we definitely need relief.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vroba. And yes, on Council's behalf, we wrote a letter to the federal government and provincial government requesting relief. If you like, we have a mayor's caucus every month. One of the things on the agenda upcoming is free trade between the provinces. We're advocating, of course, freer trade between the provinces, which, if we can get there, I think it's worth, like countrywide, probably to the tune of $15 billion. If you can imagine, we have that many impediments to freer trade between the provinces. Every province tends to protect their province from the movement of free trade. So we definitely want to work on that. But if you like, we can also mention about relief on the gas side.
Yeah, and I think actually if a letter came out from that mayor caucus where it actually went to SUMA, because SARM's already started. I think SUMA probably is too, they just don't have it on their website. But I just think, you know, again, we got told at a federal level that our letter basically fell on deaf ears. And I think that we don't stop there. I think we need to continue to advocate until they listen, because it's almost like they're all just saying, well, no big deal, you're going to have to pay that gas. But we have everyone in our oil field, the truckers, the groceries, everything. Every time that fuel goes up, every single one of us are paying more for everything. So
yeah, it's a huge cost for sure. And I believe the taxes on fuel are 60 or 70% taxes that the feds or the provinces could weigh in and could help out. In Alberta, they give tax relief to the tune of 13 cents a litre. So, you know, they're already doing that in Alberta. None of the other provinces have done that, though. But,
No.
you know, if this continues, I'm sure they will all be getting pressure to do so.
And I'm not an accountant, but it's easy to figure out, even if the gas tax was 10%, if it's 10% of $1, they're getting 10 cents. If it's 10% of $2, they're getting 20 cents. So they're literally doubling their tax income every time our gas is going up. Their tax income is going up. So just rebate us back to what they were getting in 2020, 2021. They'll still be getting the same tax revenue, but we'll get the relief.
Yeah, you're right. It goes up exponentially, but, you know, try getting money back from a government once you give it is hard, or
Yeah.
even to give relief is hard. But it's a worthwhile proposition, and we will continue.
Yeah, and I think that's what we learned at FCM this weekend, is that municipal level government, we are the stepping stones. And so we have to keep on being advocates for people so that we can somehow find a relief. Because if we find relief for our city, it finds relief for the taxpayers, and hopefully they'll find relief for everybody soon.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. I mean, this is where all the interaction takes place at the municipal level. Provincial, less. Federal, a lot less. So, yeah, no, that's a fair comment. And we do appreciate Mr. Kitchen bringing this forward on the floor on our behalf. But unfortunately, he was shot down fairly quickly. But yeah, we will continue to advocate and work forward on that, Councillor Broba. Okay. Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Your Worship. I just want to acknowledge the work Helen Fornwell has been working with the CNIB and Lyle Ducart. You'll see some lines being painted on sidewalks and pathways to help the visually impaired, allow them to use like a walking stick with a roller ball. And those things are happening now. So if you see some markings on the paths, that's what they're doing. So thank you to Helen and Lyle for promoting that and getting that in motion. Also, there's 2 new exhibits are starting June 9th at the Art Gallery. Mania Plastica with Ruth Langweiser and Subconscious Terrain with Tracy Peters, and both artists will be there. Thursday night, they'll have the Northwest Mounted Police Museum will be open. They have their new sign up as well. They'll have vans to go down and see Ruth's work in the park, and it'll be a bit of a social evening starting at 7 o'clock. And there's no need to register. You can just show up and see the exhibits. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. And yeah, we appreciate Lyle bringing this forward, and I know you had talked to Lyle as well. And Helen did a lot of work on this, and we appreciate that. And that allows the visually impaired, and I don't know how that stick at the bottom, it picks up the paint that you have on the sidewalk and allows them to walk properly on the sidewalk rather than stepping off and falling down. So it is a good aid for the visually impaired, and I know they will appreciate it. And again, let's have everyone show up Thursday night and watch some of these exhibits, have a look at them. They're very entertaining. And on the other note, that RCMP building is now repaired, correct?
Yes, Your Worship. The outside's been done, and I believe they've got the inside where the displays are going to be open now, so you will be able to do a tour of that.
Okay, well, we thank, I believe it was Sector 1 for finishing that project. I think they kicked a bit of money in.
Sector 1, Kingston Midstream did it as well as
okay.
as
well, we'd like to thank
ourselves.
Kingston as well, and everyone that donated and finished up that job. That's very worthwhile, because although that building is aged, it was falling apart. So we'd like to thank everyone coming to the table and saving that building, actually. Thank you. Councillor Walliser.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Vroba touched on the quality of life in Southeast Saskatchewan earlier, and Weyburn has a new slogan called "Why Not Weyburn?" And while I don't think we should answer that question for them, I think we should join and say, "Why not Estevan?" So quite frequently, regional meetings have to decide which of the 2 cities they're going to be hosted in, and I would like to see us extending a real invitation to both businesses and community partners in hosting their regional meetings here in Estevan. I would also like us to reach out and ask that SUMA host the next Southeast regional meeting this fall here in Estevan.
Okay, the regional meeting, yeah, I'm not sure, City Manager, if that's already been pegged, but we can check into that. The next SUMA regional meeting? Okay. I know we have had them here. We arrested the mayor of Moose Jaw at the one. He got out of hand and we had to call the police, but I mean, it was all in fun. Anything else, Councillor Walliser?
That's everything, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fort.
Thanks, Your Worship. 2 things this evening. A number of us had the opportunity to go to FCM this past couple days, and it was a great learning opportunity as a first-time attendee. We got a chance to speak to a number of leaders within the rest of Canada, and they're unfortunately having a number of the same problems that we are. And we spoke about doctor retention. They're having this exact same problems in every province that I spoke to. They're struggling with climate issues. They're struggling with issues in their carbon facilities or anything that would produce carbon. They're all struggling with the same thing. So it was interesting and really fun to actually learn that these people are not fun, but these people are having the same problems that we are and talking about solutions, because some of them are having solutions for things that I would have never even thought of. So it was great to get some people's business cards and to be able to speak to them on those issues. A thing that Councillor Vroba and I actually attended was a Women in Politics session. So we caught the last half of it, but it was really interesting to speak to other women in local government on their issues and what they're facing and what their communities are facing. And a lot of them have actually created a number of boards within their community and within their council on talking to the rest of the female leaders in the volunteer groups and everything else to see what issues they're facing. And I think it'd be something interesting that we should potentially pursue in the future, and discussing with all our non-for-profits in the community of what issues the women in the community are facing, just to be able to kind of find the pulse of it. The second thing is there's a number of section of pathways that I've received calls on in the last couple of days, particularly the south of Kensington pathway, and I'm sure lots of people have noticed some of it's been eroded by the winter, basically, where the water has been falling and draining, and they were just wondering where they call, and I did tell them to call City Hall and just mention that, but I figured I'd bring it up tonight because everybody walks past it and said, oh, somebody's probably already reported this, but is there going to be a system of us reporting it, or should we just call 1800?
City Manager?
Thank you to Councillor Ford. Yeah, the 1800 will document it and get it to the proper departments. Are we talking about 4th Avenue South, or where exactly in Kensington, just so I can...
Yeah, like the south of, between Kensington and 4th Avenue, kind of by Councillor Roper's house there, that path that goes right into the valley and up.
Yeah, with the high amount of volume of water that we had, we are addressing some issues in 4th Avenue South pathway. But yeah, phone 1800 and they put it into engineering and parks, and then they look at solutions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that brings to mind, should we have an email for the city that people, or do we, City Manager?
Thank you, Worship. We do on the website to report an issue, but we could push that out through our channels to make sure that people can do that.
Yeah,
we do get a lot of Facebook messages through the Leisure channel and the City channel. I know I have them I have them sent directly to me, as well to our Leisure department as well. So we do get a lot of contacts, so that is another avenue that people can report issues is on our Facebook page.
Good. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Councillor Ford, and yeah, we're happy and proud, actually, that half of our council are women, and you know, not every community can boast that, so we thank the community for supporting that, and the fact that we do have half of our council represented, so we appreciate that. Councillor Cernak?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just the inquiry tonight would be regarding Matchett Bay. Just apparently it's in desperate need of some more drainage. Just had the inquiry about it, and after the recent big rainfalls, we kind of had a new paddling pool in town there, so it's just maybe something on the list of improvements, and see where she goes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cernak. We'll check into that. Councillor Frank?
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, I also just wanted to echo Councillor Ford. It was a great time at SCM. Got to network a bunch of cities. We toured Callis's renewable energy project, which was really great to see. I know renewable energy is not everybody's favorite thing around here, but this was a great opportunity for us to see how they are learning on how to make this more effective in Saskatchewan and doing some actual homework on that, realizing that yes, solar and wind aren't perfect for Saskatchewan, but how can we make it better and things like that. So
it is a viable option.
Yeah, so it was a great opportunity to see some hardworking people learning and improving that industry so that we can continue to meet the demands for power, which is great. And we even taught the mayor how to use Snapchat this weekend, and I think that was my highlight of the whole weekend. So yes, it was a great time.
Curve on that one.
Yeah, so that was a great opportunity, so thanks.
Good. Well, I'm glad, Councillor Frank, thank you that you enjoyed it. And yeah, it was a huge learning curve. Go ahead, Councillor Rope.
Thank you, Worship. Just because I was hoping someone else would bring this up, but we didn't yet talk about it, was the small nuclear reactors.
SMRs?
Yeah, the SMRs. And we basically learned this weekend that in Ontario, it's 60 to 65% of Ontario is powered by these reactors. And a month ago, I was a lot more for them until I learned a bit more about them this weekend. And it's not that I'm against them, I just have more questions now. So that is one thing that's really interesting about attending these trade shows and convention, is you get to talk to different people and also learn about the different ways that they are heating their homes. There was one lady that put solar panels right on her roof, and she said the payback on them was 6 to 7 years, and she figures it'll be sooner. And so it was just interesting. And again, it was a knowledge base that we didn't even get to tap into everything, because as Councillor Ford said, the Woman of Today with the Women in Politics session we wanted to get to, and they overlapped a bit of their session, so we only made the last half. Fortunately, they're all going to be available on video, so we can all absolutely catch up on the ones that we did miss part of. And it was just a really great FCM. I was happy that it was held in Regina and that 4 of us were able to attend, because again, normally only 2 of us would attend when it's further away, but it was definitely a good learning 3 days in Regina, and so I appreciated going.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Broba. And yeah, I guess that's the biggest elephant in the room with nuclear, is what do you do with the waste? You know, the radioactivity continues for literally tens of thousands of years, and I know they encase the fuel rods in cement, and they've done that in Ontario, and now they're looking in the Canadian Shield. They have 2 places they're looking at to bury this, and then, you know, the worry is, will that get into the groundwater? Hopefully not, but that is the biggest thing, is what do you do with the waste?
And what shocked me is when his answer was, we have a 100-year monitoring plan.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know what I mean? I guess they have a really great succession plan, because there's going to be someone always monitoring that. But I just kept thinking, right now we have basically big old coal mine there, and you know, we got our power plant, and we have it here. Like, why are we going to turn to something where now we're going to use our coal plant area to bury our nuclear waste? So I have a lot more questions after coming out of FCM, and I'm sure they'll all be answered one day, for the good, the bad, the ugly, but definitely I think that it was a learning curve.
Yeah, there's no easy answers, and we understand that, and you can argue against all forms of power production, but the fact that we have it now, it's clean coal technology, it's working, and the fact that we will continue to need more and more energy, and it would appear there's nothing being built, and nuclear, if they said let's have it today, would take 12 to 14 years. Why would we not put it on Unit 6 in Shand to meet the demands, the upcoming demands, especially with the fact that in Alberta, pretty much all of the coal has already been shut down. They've turned most of the units to natural gas. So yeah, definitely it's something to discuss and something to work on. Okay, City Manager, anything further? No? City Clerk?
Nothing, Your Worship.
We don't have the City Treasurer here tonight. We miss her. She's getting a new knee. She's convalescing. I think everything's going well. So hopefully we'll have her back in action sooner than later. With that, do we have a motion to move into committee? Thank you. Councillor Cernick, seconded by Councillor Ford. Ready for the motion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. We stand adjourned. Good night.